Thank you for staying tuned. Tonight you're focusing on COVID-19 funds usage. There has been claims that the money has been misused by Kemsa, the money that was meant to ensure that Kenya get the COVID-19 commodities. So far, Kenya has secured 223 billion shillings in the war against the virus from the international community. But now, from sources that are coming or from claims that are being made, Kemsa might have misused the money. We're having Kelvin Mogeni, who is an advocate of the High Court and also the chairman of the International Commission of Jurists here in Kenya. He is also a practicing arbitrator with practice in India, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, and United Kingdom. Welcome, Mr. Kelvin.
Thank you.
All right. First things first, as the International Commission of Jurists here in Kenya, what is your take concerning the perception or concerning the allegation that COVID-19 funds have been misused?
As an organization, we believe that everything that is being together taken by any public body, anything that has to be undertaken by a public body, must follow certain laid out procedures so that we can ensure that there is good governance, integrity, and transparency and accountability in whatever they are doing, so that they meet the provisions of Article 10 of the Constitution. Now, what we have with the funds on COVID is that there's not been good, or rather there's been no transparency that has been experienced, so that the result is that the perception of the public is that the government has not been clear in and is not clear in showing that it's accountable to the public for whatever they have received during this pandemic situation. So that what we are looking at is the perception the public has that yes, we have received a lot of funds from donors, persons of goodwill, and other international organizations. But the utilization of those funds has not followed any laid out procedure. The public has not seen any benefit out of that. Say that the medical practitioners, those who are in the forefront in fighting the COVID pandemic, are not receiving any PPE equipment. The medical practitioners are not given any assistance by the government. We are finding that any of the people who are affected, because this is a national pandemic, it is not of any making by anybody, the public is not receiving any support from the government. So that if you are found to either to be in a situation of COVID, you are required to pay for your way in hospitals. You are required to meet all expenses, including the masks and the sanitizers. The question is, where does the government put these resources that have been given by the international donors, by the local donors and other people, and also allocated by the central bank to fight this pandemic? To what use are they being put? And what is the responsiveness by the government in relation to these funds? Does it meet any threshold that has been set out under the Constitution and all the public procurement regulations? So what the public is asking, how can we be responsible for the utilization of funds and in ensuring that when we are responding to the pandemic, the public, the most vulnerable, are they getting the resources as required so that they can mitigate the effects of this pandemic?
All right. Now, you've talked about that, and a lot of issues you've raised concerning this particular matter. The way that the Ministry of Health has handled this particular situation, do you think they have been accountable and transparent from the very beginning on how the funds have been used so far?
We have not received any report from the Ministry of Health, either in the way they have procured and disposed and utilized the funds and all the necessary machinery that has been put in place. There is no report that has been shown on how preparedness the counties are, and in any event, there is no report which has been given by the Ministry of Health to show how the medical practitioners have been deployed, recruited, and utilized in terms of making sure that the public is properly, or the country is properly prepared. So that even addressing the occupational health of medical practitioners, it has not been done. We have not seen any procurement that has been undertaken by the Ministry of Health to show that whatever they're utilizing, whatever they have received, has it been applied appropriately? Nothing has come. So what we're asking is that there's been, and it's not a question of public perception. It is a known fact that there's been overpricing of the commodities, or anything that has been procured has been overpriced. the purchase of goods has been substandard, and if not substandard, they have been manipulated to ensure that local goods are not passing the standardization, and they want to procure these things from outside so that they can make some money out of it. And we know that the commodities that have been given, they have been embezzled. The equipment that are supposed to go to the medical practitioner have not been utilized. So there is no report which is given. For example, Jack Ma donated several million worth of goods. There is no accountability that has been shown respecting those goods to show that, let's say, 5 went to Mogeni, 5 went to so and so, and some 10 went to Machakos Hospital, and others went to this. So there is no accountability. Accountability means we must show you received 2 shillings, you have applied 3 shillings, or you applied 2 shillings, so that the trade is clear. So what we have from the Ministry of Health is zero. There is no return, there is no responsiveness, and I think it is high time we remove the process of management of this pandemic from the Ministry of Health, so that procurement is undertaken under the auspices of the National Treasury, and then a detailed expenditure and information of all the funds that has been taken or procured is given, so that we know the donations that have been given, the donor grants, the loans that have been given, the safety cards for civil servants or anybody else, allocation of or reallocation of budgets, they are properly shown and properly known where it's going to be utilized. For example, we have got these social funds that are being given to the afflicted in informal settlements and other areas. We know who's been given, how much are they being given, what is the list, has it been shown? Nobody has that. So there is this lack of accountability. Article 210 of the Constitution requires that, 201 of the Constitution, requires that we must have public participation. It is a very simple thing. We need to have the most relevant persons properly brought into the process, so that we have, even if it's not general public participation, but we must have reasonable public participation, so that we know that these things are being procured from whom, by who, and we know to what extent it's going to be. It's a very simple thing. Yes, we know there is a pandemic, but we cannot throw away the basic tenets of administration that we know, that we have enshrined in our process, so that procurement is properly done and accountability is ensued from that. For example, what has the Auditor General done? Have we received any information from the Auditor General? That we needed to expect that. So we do not want to have a situation where everybody is crying out saying that there is a lack of this, lack of that, because of what? We are not sleeping. Yeah? Yes, the pandemic is here, but we need to be accountable in the very reasonable manner that is expected. Parliament should not sleep, the Senate should not sleep, the county government should not sleep. We need all of them to come up and give us detailed account of what they have done and how they are responsive to that. And of course, we should not forget that when you have a situation, and you know, the media, we really need you to come out very clear. And we need you to take very seriously investigative journalism, so that you can unravel all these issues, because it is not an issue you leave to the DCI to investigate alone. Set it out. If the DCI does not take it up, the civil society will follow it up. Then we'll always come up and ensure that we hold the government to account. And of course, we expect, and this is an issue that we have said and we want to repeat again, we expect in the next public address by His Excellency the President to come out very clear and give a statement on all these issues that have happened, what we expect him to do, and what he has failed to do. Because we cannot go back and say, yes, we have a pandemic, we are having a curfew, we are having a lockdown, we are having all that. But the funds that have been received, it is money due to the Kenyan public. So they need to be, somebody must be accountable, and we must be sure.
All right. Talking about accountability and transparency there, and what the authorities should do, or what the government should do, we have seen Kenyans demonstrate concerning this particular issue from Saturday actually to Sunday. Today on Monday they demonstrated in Mombasa. But we have had the Inspector General, Hilary Mutyambai, say that they shouldn't be demonstration during COVID. We have seen even the government tear gas Kenyans who have come out to demonstrate concerning this particular issue. The action by government to tear gas people who are calling for accountability and transparency, is it a way of hiding what really is ailing the Ministry of Health, or what really is the truth in as far as COVID-19 funds usage is concerned?
It can only be suspended at very exceptional situations. I know that, in this, we advise the public, we advise everybody, yes, to ensure that the safety measures that be set out by the World Health Organization and the public health in the Ministry of Health in Kenya must be adhered to. It is for the benefit and safety of everybody, yes. But as days go by, it is a question of how does the public go back and believe that what you're telling them is really resonating with what they ought to be doing. So that it is important that whereas the public is being told that, yes, keep the distance, wear your masks, wash your hands, do everything, we expect that, whatever you're telling us, we don't expect you to tell us to drink water while you drink wine. We need to all participate in the same process. The public participation is that, yes, we are doing this because we expect money to come up from donors because you keep on raising numbers. But how do you make the public believe that what you're saying is really true? It's because we are not living up to the standards that we expect the public to be. So if your standards are below par, the public will not account and tell you, no, what you're telling us is not true. So we expect the government, we expect the ministry, both the interior, the public health, to come up very clearly and tell us, yes, we have these shortcomings, but the responsiveness must be the same. We know that we have a problem with our neighbors because we know as much as we keep ourselves safe, we're not being told how much the country has been shielded from whatever is coming from Tanzania. But that is a true picture, but we cannot avoid that. But you see, the anger that is there in the public, the anger you see that is coming up from the people, it is not because the people are intentionally going out there to endanger themselves. It is because the Director General, the Inspector General, the DCI, they have taken a process that can ensure that the public have they can resonate with what the government is doing. Yeah. But you see, if the government is not doing enough, and we know that people out there, and information, of course, we need to be told. If it is my brother, like you say, if my brother is responsible for this thing, I'll always come up and say, look, if you are corrupt and you have been found to be corrupt, you must take personal responsibility, and I must expose you to have done that. But you see, the perception we have that certain persons are shielding those who are responsible for these corrupt elements and other practices that are not proper, in a certain situation. The government should be the very first one to come out and tell the public that, look, this is what to receive, this is the account that we have set out, and this is how it has been expended. These are the persons who have gotten the contracts. These goods did not go to Tanzania, they were not sold, they were not procured for us, so that there is openness. Whenever there is no openness, we must respond with or without the pandemic. The responses must be there. Because you see what is happening, you cannot lie back and wait for somebody to come and tell you, oh, this is a handshake, this is whatever, this is not whatever. The truth is this: accountability and the right to information is an enshrined constitutional position. It cannot be wished away, it cannot be taken away, whether during the pandemic or at any other time. This must be there at all times. These are one of the rights.
That's good.
These are one of the rights that cannot be suspended at any time, whether during an emergency or without an emergency. So we have asked this before, and we're saying it again. We must be given the right information about all that pertains to the COVID expenditures. All right. It's not a request.
All right. Advocate Mugeni, I'm sure you've seen that politicians from different political camps have been somewhat interested in this particular matter. We have seen the Deputy President William Ruto exchange words with ODM leader Raila Odinga and the allies of both leaders who are known to be sort of kingpins or to have much influence. Why has politics been center stage in these particular investigations?
I know there are those who want to take advantage of situations that have been created at the moment. And of course, I know that the DP and the camp have taken advantage, and they are the ones who are crying louder than anybody else. But you see, a wolf is a wolf, whether you're in whatever skin you cover yourself in. There is nobody who can say that you can now come up and say this is and take advantage of that. As any Kenyan, the best thing anybody should be doing right now is not take advantage of the situation we're in. Politics aside, we must continue to fight this pandemic that we have had along called corruption. Corruption is a bigger pandemic than COVID. And we cannot wish it away. Corruption in all forms, whether it's current, yesterday's, last week's, last year's, or tomorrow's, it's still corruption. And you cannot shout louder than anybody else that you want to be clean or that or anything. What is true is that those who are responsible, irrespective of their political persuasion, must be held to account. This is not about politics. This is about Kenya. So we are not saying that somebody should avoid this or somebody else should take advantage of this situation. But if anybody is a whistleblower, we need the whistleblower to be very candid and take the information to the right persons. We have the DCI. They're waiting for the information we require. And I'll expect the deputy president, the former prime minister, and anybody else who has got the information to currently, without any delay, publish the information, be it in the media, be it with the DCI, be it with the DPP. This information should be shared as quickly as possible, just like the nation in the investigative, they shared information. And it is now for everybody to take it up.
All right.
But this tweet that we keep on seeing, these statements are being seen from political parties and other people just meant to malign each other. They're not helping the country. They're not helping the fight against corruption. We want information that it will ensure that we have accountability out there very clear and without any form of political interest or any other.
All right. Now, I'm sure you've seen the issue of leaders from the opposition, in particular now ODM party, somewhat defend some of the leaders in the Ministry of Health who have been called to resign. What is your take on that particular issue, given that the opposition should be in a position to oversee or to be a watchdog on what the government is doing? Does it now make the fight against corruption in the country be somewhat whimsy, given that even the investigative agencies are not proactive in terms of investigating these particular cases?
When you look at the situation of Mutahi Kagwe, the Honorable Mutahi Kagwe, the CS, I think he has been very, very clear in ensuring the public understand what's going on. And whatever is being said for him to take personal accountability, he has said this before. That when you come to the question of Kemsa, he has said that the DCI should take charge and investigate. And I don't think that you can draw in the question of the cabinet secretaries and other people to decide. And I think this is because politically, I think, we have had this talk about the reshuffle to be taken within the cabinet. And of course, the intention is to try to deflect from the intended issues that the president might take. But my take is very simple. Whoever was responsible, whether it's a contractor, but any person at the Kemsa, and all those who benefited from this process, if indeed there is that process that has been taken place on corruption, they should be held to account. The very first thing to do, before you start talking about political accountability, we need to have what is called criminal accountability of the persons responsible. And that's the very first thing. Because you cannot talk about somebody to resign before investigations have been undertaken and we know there is something that has happened. Right now, we are talking about so much rhetoric about this. What we want right now is proper information on what has happened. Then we know who is going to be responsible. If Mutahi Kagwe was in the mix, he's got the contracts and tenders and yes, he must take responsibility. There is nothing you can talk about, my son is an adult or whatever it is, because that is what we come down to when it comes to political responsibility. But for now, we need to get the information, and the information we want the DCI to properly, quickly undertake the investigation, and with the advice to the DPP, have those people prosecuted. That's what we expect, the least the country expects at the moment.
All right. Now, the issue of Public Procurement Act of 2015, it being flouted time and again, because right now we're talking about the Ministry of Health, we have talked about the Ministry of Devolution through the NYS. What should be done to ensure that the process are followed to the letter? Because we can now talk about Ministry of Health and condemn Kagwe at the moment and their officers in the Ministry of Health, but come tomorrow we'll be talking about Ministry of Transport, of course, flouting the same act. What should be done concerning this particular issue?
Procurement is always based on who has been shortlisted and against whom are you going to do. When you're going to do direct procurement, it must be at a very, under the Act, it must be at exceptional situations. This may be an exceptional situation, but it must also be informed by a very clear information and a decision that based on the clear parameters, then you can pinpoint the specific persons whom you intend to procure from. This has not been done. And then, the Emergency Response Fund Board, it must be linked with the National Treasury, so that the procurement being done through this National Emergency Response Board must be done in conjunction with these agencies that have been specialized in this area. So that when you have the Ministry of Health procuring these issues, and then we end up losing, because management cannot be left to the consumer, who in this sense has been caught in a pandemic. In fact, they are a pandemic themselves. I can say, the Ministry of Health is in a crisis. It's like they have never seen the kind of money. Right now it's their time to eat. And this thing we should avoid. It's not a question of now we got it and we need to now take these things out. And I think from before, the counties have been crying that Kemsa should be removed from procuring for the counties, so that we have this issue that the procurement that's being controlled by the center should be developed appropriately, so that everybody procures for whatever they require. And that's what has been happening, and we need that to move on away from where the ministry is now controlling these issues. And at one point, they are being controlled from the Interior Ministry. But we need to really have a very transparent situation, so that procurement and the distribution of these procured items should be so transparent that nobody should cast any doubt on any operations that have been undertaken.
All right.
For example, let me ask you, and I'll ask this as a matter of information. We know there are government sanitizers out there. I've seen somewhere GK sanitizer issued by the government of Kenya. But what is the process of distributing these items? Nobody has ever said that we know these are being distributed in a particular way, in a particular mode, to any particular person. Yeah, that's true. We know there are masks which have been donated. We don't know to whom they're being distributed. All we know is that everybody is buying masks. And they're not being subsidized. They're all, the VAT and the taxes are being paid on all these items. Why can't they subsidize this? We know that the people, especially the social protection funds, which are aimed at mitigating the socioeconomic effects of the COVID-19, have they been properly distributed? We have a list of who's receiving it, who are the beneficiaries, and to whom is it being dispersed, how much is being dispersed, how much has been dispersed.
All right. There has been a call by civil organization that the development partners and the international financial institution giving Kenya grant or funds should stop giving the grants moving forward due to corruption. Do you support the move by some organization to now say that the international community should forthwith stop giving funds to Kenya, given that there is no accountability and transparency on the same?
What we need to do is to ensure that the process of treating the patient is properly undertaken. So we need to ensure that our processes are properly put in place. The first thing I will ask the international community, that the donors and other people who are of goodwill, is that they must publish the list of all that has been given to the country. The list of all the donations that have been given, they must make public. The grant agreements that have been issued, they must make public. In their websites, in the platform, whether it's the UN, the US, USAID, the UK development partners, whichever partners that we have, including JACMA, those who have given anything to Kenya. In their website, they don't have to publish elsewhere. They can put them in their own websites. Give us details record of what they're giving to this country. Then we take it up from there.
All right.
And we don't want to say that we don't expect development partners support. Yeah, we need support at this time, knowing that in the last 6 months or so, everybody requires support. But support we need to do is that for us to also put in place mechanisms to ensure that the support we're receiving is going to those people who are getting who are required to have the necessary relief. Of course, you look at the matatus, for example. Since March, yeah, the capacity was reduced to half or less than half. Yeah, nobody's talking about the relief they should be getting. It's continuing. Yeah, most hotels were closed. The bars and other institutions, the churches, the religious organizations, they are closed. But you see, we need to see how this the relief, how it's going to be distributed, so that it can, properly resonate with everybody. Not necessarily individuals or few individuals. It must reach out to everybody else. And we're saying, for us to have a proper utilization of the funds, we must have what is called proper oversight. And that's why we must bring in the Auditor General's office. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Office must be involved in this process. Then the ODPP, the Office of the Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, must be involved. But more importantly, over and above this government and public institutions, the civil society, organizations like ICJ, the KUTV Institute, the KELI, these organizations must be brought in so that, we have got so many, these other organizations, Kenya Medical Association, Transparency International, they should be dropped into this organization, into the National Disaster Response Fund. Yeah?
All right.
So that we can now bring in the required public interest that the government has failed to take care of. Yeah, so that the civil society can complement where the government has failed to do its duty in terms of due diligence and ensure there is accountability to the public.
Right.
There is nothing wrong in roping in the civil society into ensuring that there is proper management of the resources. And finally, when you look at the second situation, it should not be taken for granted that information or funds coming from outside are assumed not to be public funds. And then somebody is spending them as if their own private money. Everything that is received in Kenya on behalf of the people of Kenya is public property and must be accounted for as required under Article 201 of the Constitution. And that cannot be, we cannot at any point think that is a negotiable issue. It cannot be negotiated.
All right.
We must take into account those things, and it must at all times follow that process.
All right. Thank you so much, Advocate Kelvin Omogeni, for giving us insights concerning the issue of accountability and transparency here in Kenya and what the government is not doing and what will be done moving forward. It is quite informative what you've put in place, especially given that you're part of the civil organization here in Kenya.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here.
All right. That has been Kelvin Omogeni, an advocate of the High Court and the chairman of the International Commission of Jurists here in Kenya, saying that every single coin that was used in the fighting against COVID-19 should be accounted for. Now the buck stops with the investigation agencies to ensure that the truth is unveiled on this particular matter. We are taking a short break, but we'll be back in a moment.